Hi there, it's Holly here from Your Past is a Gift. Okay, so in a previous video I talked about an event that can carry for your whole life. So today I wanted to discuss one of my events, and hopefully with this event you'll find something in your life and you'll resonate with it. And once you can resonate, once you can connect with it, you can start to maybe look at yours and resolve it. You need to look at it though. Okay, so when I was a teenager, early teens, through my piano classes, my piano teacher decided to sign us up to a competition in the city. And at the time, that was the most exciting thing we'd ever done. You know, I'd been learning for a few years now, and I thought, wow, we're going all the way into the city. I mean, you know, that was a long way away for us as children. And it was always, the city always seemed like such a magical place for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, we prepared. At the time, you would sign up for one piece, and you would sign up to a certain slot in the competition, and there would be several children on the day from different schools all over, you know, and they would all play exactly the same piece. Now what happened was, when I got there, I was somewhere in the middle of the whole program. So say there were 30 on the list, I think I was 14 on the list. And I think there were 29 or 30 roughly. Anyway, so we had to sit in the audience while we were waiting for our turn, and when it was our turn, we'd just walk up to the piano, you know, and we'd play our piece. So I'm sitting there with my parents. My parents had come along, and they started playing. So the first one started playing, and it sounded different to mine. The second one started playing. Again, it was different to mine. Now you've got to remember that these 30 participants, you know, that were in the competition, these 30 students that were all playing the same piece as me, all came with their family. They all had their parents, they all had some had grandparents, they all had their teachers with them. So we're talking about 30, say 60, there's about 100 people in the room, give or take. So even if there wasn't, if it was just me and the students, when it was my turn to play the piece, I was terrified, because I realized at that stage that my rhythm, the rhythm of my piece, was completely wrong. So my notes were correct, great, but my rhythm was totally out. I hadn't learnt it. And so I had been learning this piece for over 6 months. There was no way that on the spot I could change this piece to sound like the others had played it, because I was 14, 13 people had all played it exactly the same rhythm, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I didn't want to play. I just thought, oh, this is horrible. I don't want to do it, you know. So eventually I got up, because I thought, well, my parents made an effort to bring me this day, and they've made an effort to take me to all these lessons to learn, because it was something I really loved learning. But from that moment, so many things started to go completely wrong. Now, to me, it was, in my life, the most humiliating moment I've ever been through in my life. I don't know if the other children, for them it might have been refreshing, you know, to hear this piece with a completely different rhythm, because they'd already heard it 13 times before the same, so they might have thought it was wonderful to hear it different. But to me, getting up there in front of all these people to play by myself with my book and knowing that it was wrong was just horrible. So what happened from there? So many things just started to go downhill from that moment. In the following years, I started to develop what's called the carpal tunnel syndrome, or whatever it is in the wrists, that they start to ache, they start to get really sore. And so I lost all feeling in my fingers. I couldn't hold things, I couldn't, you know, I found it really hard. The next few years, I just got progressively worse. And that was at the time. Now I had a doctor eventually that said he could cure me, but at the end of the whole treatment, what he said to my parents was that the disease, the illness, was in my mind. And I remember at the time thinking, are you crazy? Are you nuts? What are you saying? You're insane. You can't fix me. And now you're putting the blame on me. That's how it felt at the time. Like, oh, you're just pointing the finger to me because you can't fix it, right? And it took me a really long time to understand what this man was saying, this doctor. So with time, and funny, the time I'm talking about was the last few years when I wrote this book. So it's only been in the last 5 years that I've actually looked at this event again, because I'd completely forgotten it had happened. I hated that moment in my life so much that I had completely blocked it out. And when I started writing down all these events and all these things that had happened in my life, somehow it emerged, it popped up for me to look at again. And so it's funny how many things we do bury and think it doesn't matter anymore, you know. Anyway, so I looked at it and then I realized in my mind when I was doing this process of Your Past is a Gift, that at the time in my mind, I found that event so humiliating and I never, ever, ever wanted to go through that again, that I created this tension in my body. When I was playing piano or when I was on my typewriter, because in the old days we used to have those typewriters that you had to really press into the keys, which many of you, if you're young, have no idea what I'm talking about, but both of them you'd use all your fingers. And so between that, because I used to use my typewriter a lot, I loved it, and my piano, was that with the tension that started to ache. And the truth was that in my mind I was creating that because I didn't want to ever have to go through that again. Now, for the longest time through my life, I have not been able to play piano in front of others. I just terrified that what I had created was wrong. And nowadays, luckily, we have recordings for everything. So you can always go back and listen and see, you know, if there is difference or if there's not. But back in the day when I was learning, we relied on our teacher to correct us. So it's taken over 30 years for me to realize that it's because of that one event in my early teenage years that I'm having this problem. I love music and I love playing, but it all comes from that moment in time where I just felt so humiliated. I was devastated, actually. I think it was more the word of how I felt at the time. I just wished that, you know, the earth would create a big hole and suck me into it and I could just disappear. Anyway, so, and like I said, it's only been in the last 5 years that I've understood this event and how much it has affected my life up until this point in my life. We're talking nearly over 30 years worth of this event, and the fact that I had buried it, I couldn't even remember that this had happened. The problem with my hands, I'd even buried that. I couldn't remember that had happened, that I'd had that problem. Because you get distracted and you start to look at other things in your life and you just, like I said, we're taught to ignore it because you can't change it. And okay, I'm going to go into this in the next video. It's a whole new topic. So remember to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video to talk about why they say to bury it. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.